One.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Incompetent Nerds. I'm your host, Mark, back with Tank, back with D'Angelo. We're talking about Cowboys today, guys.
Howdy, y'all.
Good,
Howdy, how y'all doing?
man, good. This topic has been on all of our minds for a long time, and it's fun, and it's summer, and I live in the West, so why not?
Let's
Yeah,
do
I'm
it.
excited.
D, why don't you tell us about all the research you did? Because you seem like the most excited out of all of us.
All right, you got it. But first, I want to kind of kick it off where I guess I'm like that typical American that always romanticize the history and, of other civilizations and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I
Other ways
pretty
of
much,
life.
right, exactly. But from pretty much my research, it doesn't look like it doesn't really fit the idea of, well, it doesn't really fit my perception of how I thought it would be there. It kind of seems like they also had their own like industrial stuff that they had going on, which isn't kind of different from what we have going on in 2020, in my opinion. It
Sure.
For me, it looks like a lot of their civilizations it was kind of built along the lines of those railroads, so they
Hmm.
could basically get all of the imports from whether it's from leather from shoes or certain like food and just goods and services. So I just kind of feel like they're the same as us, but just in a different time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely I think the romanticism comes with like what we talked about a few weeks ago with like the unknown, you know. But I mean I
Hmm.
think when you talk to like the logistics of like the culture of people and like how they actually lived, yeah, there was like they were very much reliant on you were either self-reliant on the land or you're reliant on buying your stuff from other places.
Yeah. And yeah, it just kind of sucks that after I looked at everything, it kind of took away my romanticism of it away. Well, at least a little bit of it.
Why is that?
Because, well, in my mind, I just thought that they were just in a completely different world and culture where it's like, we're in the new frontier. We discovered our land. We don't really need, the industrial world. We kind of got our own way. But from what I found out from research, they're just pretty much in the same kind of circumstances that
I
we
think
were
it
in.
I think it was like a mix of both because Cowboys they were it's like it was almost like it was two different worlds, right? You're tasked
Hmm.
with like, taming and like exploring this land and you have to like live on your own and you come into town every couple days and get what you need versus like
Yeah,
you
that's
go to a
true.
city and you had like everything you needed but you were working long days so like you didn't enjoy it. So it was
Hmm.
kind of like a I think it was just a different way of life for being a cowboy, I guess, because it's something that I think it's romanticized because we needed it so much, and
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
it was such a shitty position to be in, but we wouldn't be where we are without him.
No.
Yeah, you're right. They definitely warped everything. And plus, also those farmers around that time, like the women that were responsible for, taking care of the kids and milking cows and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's like they had like 10 to like 12-hour days, even longer. And they had to do that every single day. So it was hard work that a lot of people had to do around that time.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of still true today with like how we get our food. Like people will, especially with people being vegan now, and like
Hmm.
wanting ethically and sustainably farmed like meat, but how how far are they away from like the actual meat and like seeing it get killed and like its living conditions?
Yeah, and we're also in a weird place of society now where we consider it wrong to kill an animal, but we're perfectly fine with eating the animal, which is kind of funny.
It's
Yeah,
yeah. It's just the
as
whole
long as
idea
we're
of
removed from it.
it's the
Right.
whole humane way to kill an animal and everything. And back in those days, the most humane way was to slit an animal's throat. To
Yeah.
be honest, like that was to them at the time was the most humane way. Others, uh, nowadays there's different methods. But I wanted to we'll go back. We'll go into the little stuff, but yeah, let's keep this moving. I have a couple things in my head on like the mythology and
Go
The
for it, man.
the whole
Yeah, I
like
said
things
go
of cow.
for it.
Okay, so since Americans love to romanticize the cowboy, your typical cowboy, the white hat and the black hat, on top of horses, gun slinging, taking out maybe like 6 guys, just
Yep.
right, like one bullet for each person, bam, 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 like your typical samurai showdown and things like that. Or your knights in golden armor rescuing, the village that's on fire. I guess the stories about the West didn't just attract Americans, but also attract the world about these cowboys who that would go out to the West herding cows, but not even herding cows. They were the knights of America.
Yeah.
So the Japanese had the samurai. Europe had, their plentiful knights. Everybody had like some type of warrior. The cowboy was the American warrior, you could say. Was like the knight. It was mythical. You had like the shootouts, the epic brawls at the saloons. The fact that the typical cowboy was, he was a womanizer, but also a lady killer. He had sweet talks and, always got his way because he was smooth and he was good at what he does, aka Mark.
I think that's like still a womanizer though.
No, but it was like, he was able to talk down the situation, de-escalate, but also, when push got to shove, he definitely pushed.
Cracking skulls.
Cracking skulls, popping shots, able to pop somebody from like 100 yards with his with just a pistol. It's just like
Right.
like all these myths and lores all started and attracted people. And I guess nowadays where it's just like with us and how Hollywood and how any type of media treats it, be it film, comic books, or even novels or books, it's just like it's kind of cool, to be honest. Like sometimes it could be done right if you want to give it that lore feel. And look how even video games, Red Dead Redemption, one of the top tier cowboy games out there. Not many do cowboy games, because why?
True.
Just like films, it needs to be done right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you had Tombstone, which was considered like by far one of the top tier cowboy movie that there
Of all
was.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Then you have what's his name? The most iconic cowboy that there is,
John Wayne.
John Wayne. He
did so many.
Yeah.
He did so many cowboy movies.
It wasn't even
Yeah.
just cowboy movies. It was cowboy movies. It was a TV show. I think it was him with the Magnificent Seven, seven cowboys
True
defending
Grit.
True
The
Grit.
original Grit.
It's just like people. A lot of folks from outside the U.S. love John Wayne. When they watch cowboy movies, they want John Wayne.
It's funny that you mentioned like outside the U.S. and like other cultures' warriors, because like whenever you see like a foreign film, whenever there's an American who's like flies by the seat of his pants, a little offbeat, they always call him a cowboy or a cowgirl.
Yeah.
But like they always like say like, oh, there's an American. Like, what are you doing here, cowboy? I was watching Tokyo Drift last night and that literally happened. The guy was like,
Called him a
he
cowboy.
said something in Japanese about being a cowboy, and I was just like, this is ingrained in like every piece of media in our culture, because it's like I don't know. I think it's true to most extents, but it's so just like it's if you're not American if you don't love cowboys kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like I hate cowboys. Like Mark, for example, let's say you go ahead, you go to Japan, and you get called a cowboy, and you're like, I really hate cowboys. What the hell? Next, Mark is in the brawl. Like, yo, you just pulled a cowboy move, bro. How so? You fought a bunch of people at a bar in Tokyo
It's very
with
cowboy.
bottles. Very cowboy of you. The only thing you were missing was the pistol. That's it. It's the revolver. The single action revolver.
Right.
Let's talk about that though.
Let's get
What?
into it.
Smith and Wesson?
No, not even. It wasn't Smith and Weston. Was it the single?
Colt?
It was the Colt. The Colt revolver.
Peacemaker?
I think it was. I'm not entirely sure what model, but the Colt revolver is what changed the West, along with the rifle. I think it was, what was it? The Winchester rifle. I can't even say that.
Yeah.
But the Colt revolver was a single action revolver. So that term means every time you shot a round, you had to pull the hammer back. That's the reason why you saw in those little action movies and other stuff where you see the cowboy slap the hammer with his other hand and pull the trigger and pull the trigger for rapid fire.
Mm-hmm.
Even I think the quick draws, those showdowns, that was actually lore, and that was copied over by Japanese samurai showdowns when samurais used to, they when they used to grab their sword, the samurai believed that an educated warrior was the deadliest warrior, and they practiced their method that they were able to kill a man with one hit.
Mm-hmm.
So Hollywood, I guess, took that idea and was like, because it was Kurosawa, the famous Japanese film director, Kurosawa, who made a lot of samurai films.
Mm-hmm.
He took a lot of influence from cowboy movies, and cowboy movies took influence from his movies. That's the reason why you had the two cowboys staring down at each other, either in the town or outside or somewhere, and then doing the showdown that who had the fastest trigger pull.
Mm-hmm.
And that
And
was
you always
all
had the eyes, the focus on the eyes.
And it was the belief that same thing. If you were fast and you were smart, you could take your opponent down with one hit.
Yep. What are you guys' thoughts on modern day cowboys?
I don't even know.
Have you even ever seen a modern day cowboy?
What is a modern day cowboy?
I've never seen a modern day cowboy. You're the only cowboy that I know, Mark.
Does he wear khaki pants, crappy haircut, and tiki torches?
No way, man. Cowboys are still cool.
All right, tell us, Mark, because you're the only cowboy I know right now in
Same
2020. Here. So please tell me.
Okay. So like the more I think about it, we've talked about this. I consider myself a California cowboy, or a millennial cowboy, or whatever you want to call it. But like, just the culture of what a cowboy represents is cool to me, and I think it's important, and I don't think it should be lost on our like history, and I think we should recognize the things they did wrong and try to learn from them. But I think at the heart, every cowboy like wanted to do good. No, it's not like we have a list of like evil cowboys we remember. They're all remembered for doing something good.
Right.
But a good show right now that actually like is highlighting that is Yellowstone, because it's with Kevin Costner.
I know about that.
Yeah, because he just plays like an older guy who has this ranch, and he's trying to protect it. He has all this land, but people want land, and people want to build it and develop it, and it gets taken away from him all different kinds of ways. I won't spoil anything for anybody listening, but it's a nice modern cowboy show, and I think that, and people are like eating it up. So it just goes to show you that people still like cowboy stuff, and it's what Tank said. If you could do it right, people love it, and people will be on board, no matter what.
Because it shocks me.
Go ahead. As an actor, you have never made it as an actor until you star in a Western.
I like that rule of thumb, Mark.
It's just a little myth, kind of like cowboys themselves, but that's the idea.
I actually think that you're right, because even Denzel Washington played a cowboy.
He did. Right? I wasn't about to lead on to that, because that new Magnificent Seven, I did watch it. I enjoyed it. And you
believed him as a cowboy. That was the craziest part.
He was super believable.
He was such a cowboy.
Yeah, an ex-soldier from the Federate from the Northern Army, the Federate Army, and then his buddy was his adversary from this a sniper from the Confederate Army,
Yeah.
and it's just like I just to talk about this and spoiler warning for people who haven't watched it. It's a good flick. Watch it. But one of my favorite scenes is his boy who is a sniper has a PTSD and how Denzel calms him down and
Oh,
tells him like we're not in war anymore, dude. The fighting's done. We're not fighting each other. Just like calm down, relax. And he's like trying to help him cope.
That's
And
sweet.
they were both adversaries, and now they're partners trying to save this town.
Yeah.
yeah. It's such
And
a
it's that
good movie.
simple. That's the stories are simple. Save a town. That's
Yeah.
it.
Now that I really think about it, they're really the origin of like these superhero films. Now that I'm really starting to kind of like think back and look at it, it's kind of like a
100%.
similar story. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's the exact same hero's journey.
Yeah, and
hmm
it's like I said, like the American cowboy, it's literally like the European Knights. All the stories always led to that. All the stories written about, or the films that we watch, all led to like the heroes. We already know who the heroes were. You had the good cowboys and the bad cowboys. Well, how can you tell? The white hats and the black hats.
Hmm.
John Wayne always wore the white hat.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a movie he actually wore a black hat.
It was Brown, I think.
Oh,
Or no, I think the one you're talking about, he was actually one of the last ones he did because he played a cowboy who was dying,
yeah.
and he was actually dying like in real life.
And that was his last film.
hmm
Dang.
It's kind of funny how I mean, not funny obviously, but he got cancer from filming this movie where he played Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he did play Genghis.
And they filmed it in like Utah, southern Utah, but like they were testing bombs in Nevada, and they had like nuclear fallout that hit them,
Oh no.
Hmm.
and like 91 out of the 200 people on the crew got cancer.
Yeah.
Crazy times.
Yeah, no bueno.
But since we talked about him specifically, do you guys have a favorite cowboy or favorite cowboy actor or favorite cowboy story?
I'll let Tank go first if he wants.
God damn you, D. To be honest, like I really wasn't a fan of cowboys growing up, and
But wait, was it not taught to you, or was it like you weren't
no,
you learned it and weren't interested?
I got like I was young when I was young. Like I said, Cowboys is an American staple.
Mhm.
Everybody watched it. My
Okay, okay.
grandfather loves Cowboys. My stepfather loves Cowboys. My father loves Cowboys. The thing was, I wasn't as into as they were. So every time a Western movie came out, if it didn't catch my drift, I was just like, nah. So I would
Yeah.
like not pay attention or walk or just walk away or change something else. I wasn't really into Cowboys.
hmm
But to be honest, a decent cowboy movie, I would say was The Magnificent Seven with Denzel. I did enjoy that one,
Hmm.
and yeah, I gotta say that one. I think I have another one. I'm just trying to remember. Would you call what's it called? The other like wannabe cowboy, but is in post-apocalyptic. With Kevin Costner, The
Which
Postman.
one? The Post.
I think it was called The Postman.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Hold on. D, go ahead. You do your thing. I'm going to look up this one.
Yeah, sure thing. So I have two. So one of my favorite cowboys is Clint Eastwood
hmm
because that's what I grew up off of. So a quick little history. My granddad loves westerns. You know, rest in peace, granddad. But he used to watch so many westerns every single day. And whenever he was around babysitting me, we would always just kick back and we would watch these films. And Clint Eastwood is pretty much the person I went to.
That's
So I
cool.
have Yeah, so I have two favorite movies. So I have the one with Clint Eastwood is called For a Few Dollars More,
hmm
And ooh, it's another one. All right, another one with Clint Eastwood is called Fistful of Dollars. I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's like my second favorite. And then my number one, of course, is the most cliche one ever, which is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The soundtrack is so good on this one too.
So
But yeah,
who did the good, the bad, and the ugly? Who was the director? Or what's the one where he says, "Do you feel lucky, punk?"
do you feel lucky, punk?
That's not even a Western movie. That's him. Isn't that Dirty Harry?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Oh, that is Dirty Harry.
you're right.
Yeah, but those are my top. And Clint Eastwood is just my. The man's a legend, so I kind of always like enjoy watching whatever he's in. So I'm kind
Yeah,
of biased when it comes to Cowboys.
it's kind of crazy because like if you think about it, so you had Clint Eastwood was like the uh like 80s, like 70s, 80s, like late 60s sort of cowboy. John Wayne, I would say, preceded him. Before that was William S. Hart, my boy, my hometown hero, from the silent film era.
Hmm.
He was actually a pallbearer for Wyatt Earp. That's kind of cool. So it's like
Wow.
it literally like you go from Hollywood to actual cowboys. Like you can go all the way back, but we don't have a modern day star who's like I guess Kevin Costner if you want to call
Yeah.
Kevin Costner the modern day cowboy. But uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I would love to have a career that's like those any of those people because they were very successful at what they did, and even when they weren't making cowboy movies, you still wanted to watch them, you know, because they were just good at being cowboys.
Yeah. Now, okay, I got mine. I forgot about this one. 310 to Yuma.
Yes, oh my God,
With
such a good
That's good.
the one
the
with
new one.
yeah, the new one with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe.
Yeah,
I
I
Yeah,
watched
that's
it
totally
last night.
forgot about that one. I remember watching that one. Another one I watched, which was more of a horror flick, but it was a western, called
Mm-hmm.
Bone Tomahawk.
never
Interesting.
seen Bone Tomahawk.
That one's with Kurt Russell, and there's a there's Native Americans who are cannibals, and that even the local natives will stay away from their area, saying that they eat people, but of course the white man didn't believe them until they started getting eaten.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. Um, yeah, I saw that one, and that one caught my. What caught my attention was I seen a kill. My mother was watching it, and I seen how
Mm-hmm.
they killed somebody. I was like, oh my god, what movie is this? Just the gore, and it's gory. I'm telling you, it's gory. And I want to say they stayed true to like to the I guess to the era or anything,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a scene where no spoilers or anything like that, but there's a scene where Kurt Russell and his I don't know, his deputy, whatever, because he's the sheriff. They're like hunting. They're trying to find these missing people,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't you don't even hear the arrow. You just instantly see, oh, I'm down. Got hit by an arrow, and they go start popping at the everywhere so they hit somebody.
Wow.
Because you know how usually like in westerns, usually the Indians always are chanting and then they shoot the arrows, giving off their position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This one I feel like it was true. Like I highly doubt a lot of Native Americans, when they fought, did not give up their position because they were guerrilla fighters.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
very rare. It was only in some cases where they actually fought out in the open, but then they were guerrilla fighters.
Hmm.
And I'm glad that you brought that point up because, yeah, that's definitely what their tactics are. A lot of them, they even develop, stealth, and that's pretty much how they've just been attacking people. But unlike all of the movies, they always try to make them seem as though they don't necessarily have the best strategic plan to go
Yeah,
up against cowboys.
not because that's how they fought each other, and that's how they even you guys heard of the French Indian War?
Yeah.
It was the French and the Indians fighting against the British, and it was the
You
first time.
guys,
What happened?
you guys, like you're not a part of it.
No, as in like you guys know, like I'm pretty sure you guys were taught about the French Indian War.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think
Yeah.
what the French and Indian fought. It was a weird naming convention. Nobody knows why they called it French Indian War, but it was a French and the Indian fighting against the British, and it was the first time the French and the British uh, started like realizing guerrilla tactics amongst these natives and how viciously they fought. So the French adopted, and so did the British adopted. They adopted the whole we gotta if we're gonna win this war, we can't fight in the middle of an open field.
Yeah.
Let's be secretive. Let's give false information, put them in traps, things like that. And the Indians taught a lot of soldiers how to fight, quietly and be like ghosts, basically, because that's how they used to fight each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Are we?
interesting just like
Yeah.
how much that culture has just influenced today still.
Oh yeah, it's like even today's tribes, the tribes that are still alive. One guy. You ever guys ever watch Deadliest Warriors?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I used to watch
Like,
that a lot as a kid.
that
Yeah.
was a good show.
Or
Oh, it
teenage.
was.
They had the weirdest shows on Spike TV.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
They even had a video game, FYI, too. It's pretty bad, but they
Yeah,
had
Remember
it's
a
Thousand
horrible.
Ways to Die?
for
Oh, I love that show. Oh my god, I love that show. I watched. I don't know if they ever finally made 1,001 Ways, but I remember like watching the first episode, number 255. Bro, we haven't hit number 1 yet.
right.
This is the first episode. But on there, I remember it was a Comanche. He was talking about how the tribes that are still around today were the ones that fought back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true because it's kind of crazy, but the all the Apache now have grown in numbers, but when they fought, the male population of the Apache dwindled down to like 56 men by the time America just stopped fighting with them. Because the Apache were known as freaking deadly warriors, especially with a knife in their hand. They were known as great knife wielders.
Like hand-to-hand combat.
Straight hand-to-hand combat with a knife. They were trained, since they were young, and they were mainly used bone and stone. But when Americans and Europeans started selling and coming through, and were trading metal, they loved it. They were like, "Wait a minute, we got to get our hands on this metal more." And as time progressed, they would like to trade for knives or for any metal, and that's how they used to work their combat using knives. And they were quick, they were quiet, and they would take out settlements like no other. But when it came to an open fight, that's where they couldn't fight open because not many of them, had guns or anything like that. Especially when self-loading rifles and revolvers were becoming
The
more
revolver.
of a thing.
That's
That's what really, really killed it. But when they started to get their hands on it, it was already too late.
Right. And I also want to just kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about, their hand-to-hand combat as well as, their knife wielding ability. You definitely had Indians, Native Americans at that time that was actually training the U.S. military on hand-to-hand combat and how to use knives and stuff like that the way that they done it.
They're still training them today.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
well, there we go. Yeah, because they're really efficient with a blade, and I believe, Tank is a historian, so I don't necessarily know the Native American name, but I think his name was either like Red Moon or something like that. But he was a guy that specialized with tomahawks, and he was so good with the tomahawks, he was chopping everybody down during the war, and it got to the point where they just had to shoot him down from a boat because he was just that good with 2 tomahawks. But it was one of those warriors. But I don't know.
Was it Western or was it Midwest? Because
it probably was Western. I'm not 100% sure, though.
Because I know Black Hawk here in the Midwest, when the Black Hawk Rebellion happened, he was one hell of a guy. He took down a bunch of soldiers before they brought him down.
That could be it because yeah, his name is very hazy to me, but
Yeah,
he killed a lot of soldiers with two tomahawks.
yeah. Could have been an Apache. Because the Apache, they were really great at hand to hand. And at the
Mm.
time with the American, when the American West, when the West started to be expanding by the federal government, and more federal troops were coming in, and they were fighting against the Native Americans. Not many of the soldiers had self-loading rifles. They just had your typical, what you call it, your typical musket or your typical rifle that you had to load in the Civil War era. Only certain what you call it, certain officers had revolvers or the self-loading rifle, which slowly started to come out. That's what changed the West. And then the Comanches, I know they were good with spears and arrows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Uh,
they were also very brutal, I heard as well, because I believe what they did was their civilization was pretty much evolved around chasing bison, I believe.
no,
Chasing and hunting bison.
the Comanche actually broke off of a peaceful tribe. I think if I'm not mistaken, the tribe was um, very pacifist, but were being taken over constantly by the West, and a group of it was like, we can't deal with this no more. They split from them and became the Comanches, and the Comanches just became straight warriors. And one thing they were
Ah.
great was with spears. They were great with spears. So if they were on horseback and you're loading your gun, count your blessings, because that spear is going dead in your chest. And they were great on horseback and horseback spears and horseback archery.
Ah, okay, there we go. I'm glad I got a historian on here.
Yeah, and if I wasn't mistaken, I think they were able to launch like 20 arrows on horseback versus the typical soldier who was able to shoot three rounds on the gun.
Wow. Yeah, I actually heard about that. So I was actually on YouTube looking up, the history of Cowboys and Indians, of course, but it was one guy who was basically talking about their method of shooting arrows, which is that they will have these arrows in between pretty much each of their fingers so they'll be able to shoot multiple shots at a target.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Cause
was very hard for for the military to deal with because they had like one shotters at that time before they
Yeah.
got to the revolvers and things like that.
Because if you look at it, arrows throughout history, an arrow can't really kill somebody unless you hit the mark. If you
Yeah.
hit them in the heart, or even hit them, in a soft spot in the head, or if your arrow was able to pierce, especially at that time, they weren't wearing any body armor. But if you hit them in the arm, you hit them somewhere where it wasn't fatal, you weren't killing somebody.
Well,
So
it wasn't meant to be fatal.
no,
Indians weren't going to they weren't after killing. They were just after they either are hunters or they were just protecting what was theirs and wanted you not to come back. But
no, but a lot of them were at for the kill. They know they needed a kill, but it's just overall the history of arrows. Its main job was to just incapacitate. That was his main job of arrows. It was kind of hard to
Ah.
kill somebody because you need to hit the vital organs for a one shot kill. Don't get me wrong, people were able to get kills off of a one arrow, but throughout history, a lot of arrows were just used to, you know, let's weaken the army. How you do that? Well, if I hit a guy in the arm with an arrow, well, he just lost his sword or his shield arm.
Mhm.
He's gonna fight, or he's not gonna fight. Either or he's gonna be in pain. Oh, I knocked him down because I hit him in the leg. I hit him in the thigh. He might be bleeding out because I hit an artery. But other than that, he ain't dead yet. It's not a for sure kill. Some arrows were for sure kills, many weren't. Now, if you had others like like the scorpion, which was a giant arrow, you were gonna get a couple kills off of that. Or a catapult,
Right.
or even a ballista, a catapult, or what's the other one? I forgot the other one. A trebuchet.
oh yeah,
You will get kills off of those.
yeah.
But a typical bow and arrow, yeah, those were kind of difficult.
Yeah, it's a shame how the rest of the West played out and how we treated them Indians after we needed more land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the part of Cowboys I want to change. We can be better and different this generation.
And this new generation.
I believe
Yeah.
that.
No, and I respect that. But I just feel like in general, it's their method of pretty much taken away. I feel like that's just embedded in, just being American, unfortunately. That's
Right.
pretty much has been our approach all the way to now to 2020. That's always kind of been our approach. It's to
Our
be kind
MO.
of violent, push, push, get what we want. We're just that type of, country or nation rather.
Right.
Yeah. But with the modern cowboy, I think they could still use the old what you call it? The old values
Yeah,
and bring it
definitely.
forward because those old values still hold up to today.
And that's what people remember. That's what people
100%.
watch on TV, and I think that's what people care about. I think
Yeah.
that's what more than anything.
Yeah, true. I just believe that. Yeah, I believe that the morality was just everything was different in the day compared to like right now. I just feel like we really don't have a lot of moral and values that we kind of go by, or we just not really like stuck in concrete with our views as much as they did in the earlier times. And I
Yeah,
think we kind of appreciate it when they were like that.
yeah. Do you watch that video we were talking about on John Wayne a
Hmm.
couple years ago? The airport in Orange County in California. They wanted to rename it because in a Playboy interview, he said, unfavorable things about like black people and like Native Americans and stuff. But, at his time, he was just going with the information that was available to him. He didn't know any better. And I think it's hard to judge someone based on the information of the time and what they should have said or did. And it was an interview for Playboy, so like, when did that become the standard for your opinion?
So, John Wayne,
You
what's
got
your
a point
opinion on
there.
black people? It's like I thought you were gonna talk about broads and stuff. What the hell?
Yeah, they threw him a curveball.
They sure did. He was just talking. He was just hoping to see a couple of Playboy bunnies. That was it.
Right. But his thought on Native Americans and Black people, that was just pretty much a reflection of how people thought in America. I
Yeah,
mean, it is what it is.
100%.
So yeah, but I definitely think that times are changing now when people are swayed, sway their opinions. Of
Yeah.
Sure.
course, not everybody's going to do it, which is perfectly fine. But like I said, we have to understand that this is American. This is the American way. This is how we've done stuff
It's rooted in
since.
our
Right,
brains for a long time.
right, exactly. And since it's been so successful for us, I'm thinking from their perspective, why would we switch anything up when what we always been doing has always worked?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, so I'm not mad at John Wayne. I get it. It's still fuck. It's still messed up though.
Glad to know you forgive him.
Yeah, it's all good.
Well, this was a nice episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to close this out, Mark? You're the 2020 Cowboy.
Thank you. Sure. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed listening. Stay humble. Always remember the true meaning of what it means to be a cowboy. Don't lose sight of it. And this has been Incompetent Nerds. See you guys next week.
Peace.
Incompetent Nerds is sponsored by Shop Valerio, an online watch and sunglasses provider for men and women that ships worldwide. Use code MARK25 at checkout for 25% off your order. That's shopvalerio.com. ShopValerio.com. And use code MARK25, that's MARC.25 at checkout. Thanks for listening.